You're too poor to understand our problems, my brother said at dinner. I'd been paying his wife's medical bills for 2 years. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and canceled everything from my phone, and now he is begging. So I, 34 male, live in Austin, making a comfortable six-figure salary. I'm not wealthy by Silicon Valley standards, but I'm doing well for myself. I drive a modest Honda Civic, live in a nice but not extravagant apartment, and I've managed to save a decent amount over the years. I mention all this because it becomes important later. Because apparently, according to my brother, I'm too poor to understand real problems. My brother David is 2 years older than me. We grew up in a middle-class family in Ohio, where our parents worked hard to give us everything we needed. Dad was a mechanic, mom was a school teacher. They weren't rich, but they taught us the value of family and helping each other out. At least, that's what I thought they taught us both. Turns out, some lessons don't stick the same way for everyone. David always had this swagger about him. Even as kids, he was the charming one. The one who could talk his way out of trouble while I was the quiet, studious type who kept my head down and worked hard. He barely scraped through college with a business degree, while I busted my ass to get my computer science degree with honors. But somehow, David always seemed to land on his feet. He had this way of making people believe in him, even when there wasn't much substance behind the charm. He married his college girlfriend Vanessa when he was 26, and they moved to Dallas where he got a job in sales at some marketing firm. I remember their wedding, this elaborate affair that cost more than my entire first year of college. Vanessa's parents footed most of the bill, which should have been my first clue about the kind of lifestyle she expected. I never particularly liked Vanessa. She came from money. Her parents owned several car dealerships across Texas, and she always had this air of superiority about her. The way she'd wrinkle her nose at chain restaurants, how she'd talk about investment pieces when buying clothes, the subtle digs at anyone who didn't have her taste or standards. But David seemed happy, so I kept my mouth shut. That's what you do for family, right? You bite your tongue and smile through holidays. The early years of their marriage were what you'd expect. David bouncing from sales job to sales job, always chasing the next big commission. Vanessa working part-time at an art gallery, more as a hobby than a real job. They lived in a nice apartment, drove decent cars, took occasional vacations. Nothing excessive, but definitely more lavish than my own lifestyle. 3 years ago, everything changed. Vanessa was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She was only 33 years old. When David called to tell me, I could hear the fear in his voice. Real, raw terror that cut through all his usual bravado. Despite our differences, despite Vanessa's attitude, I felt genuine sympathy for them. Cancer doesn't care about your personality flaws or your bank account. It doesn't discriminate. The treatment was brutal. Chemotherapy, radiation, eventually a double mastectomy and reconstruction surgery. Vanessa's health insurance covered most of it, but there were still significant out-of-pocket costs. Experimental treatments that insurance wouldn't touch. Alternative therapies she wanted to try. Special medications. Holistic supplements. The bills started piling up, each one another weight on their shoulders. About 6 months into her treatment, David called me late one night. It was past midnight, and I'd been asleep. His voice on the phone was different. None of the usual confidence, just exhaustion and defeat. "Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I hate myself for it," he said. "We're drowning here, man. The medical bills are killing us." Vanessa's parents helped at first, but they've got their own financial issues with the dealership struggling. Mom and Dad don't have anything to spare. I know you're doing well with your job, and I was wondering, could you help us out? Just temporarily, until we get back on our feet. I sat up in bed, fully awake now. My brother, the one who always had everything figured out, was asking me for help. "Of course," I said without hesitation. "Family helps family. How much do you need?" That's when David explained that they had multiple bills coming in every month. The insurance didn't cover certain medications. There were co-pays for specialists, alternative treatments Vanessa insisted on trying that cost thousands out of pocket. He estimated they needed about $3,000 a month to cover everything health-related that wasn't being paid by insurance. $3,000 a month was a lot, more than my rent at the time. But I was living well below my means, saving aggressively. I had a good emergency fund, and I figured this was exactly the kind of emergency it was meant for. "Set up a system where the medical providers can bill me directly," I told him. "I'll handle it." "Marcus, I don't know what to say. We'll pay you back, I swear. Once Vanessa's better and back to work." "Don't worry about it right now," I cut him off. "Focus on getting Vanessa healthy. We'll figure out the rest later." Looking back now, that was my first mistake. Not helping them, I don't regret that. But not setting clear boundaries. not getting anything in writing, not having a frank discussion about expectations and timelines. I just assumed that David, my own brother, would be grateful and honest with me. I assumed that family meant something. For the first 6 months, I got regular updates. David would text me after Vanessa's appointments, let me know how she was doing, express his gratitude for my help. You're saving our lives, bro, he'd say. We'll never forget this. I felt good about what I was doing. Sure, my own savings took a hit. I was putting away about $30,000 a year less than before, but I was helping my sister-in-law fight for her life. That mattered more than my retirement fund, right? The bills came like clockwork. Oncology copays, medication costs, alternative treatment centers, nutritional supplements recommended by Vanessa's naturopath. I paid them all without question. When I'd see the amounts, sometimes $2,800, sometimes $3,200, I'd wince a little, but I never complained. This was life or death. You don't nickel and dime cancer. Then something started to shift. The updates became less frequent. When I'd call to check in, David would give me one-word answers. She's fine. Treatment's going okay. Talk to you later. Busy with work. I figured he was stressed, dealing with a lot. I didn't push. I kept paying the bills and told myself that no news was good news. What I didn't know, what I had no way of knowing because my own brother was lying to me, was that Vanessa had been in remission for over a year. Her cancer treatment had been successful. She'd finished her reconstruction surgery 6 months after going into remission. She was, by all medical accounts, doing great. And I was still paying $3,000 a month in medical bills. Except they weren't medical bills anymore. I found this out in the worst possible way. 2 months ago, I was scrolling through Instagram, something I rarely do because I find it depressing. But I was bored on a Sunday afternoon, and I opened the app. That's when I saw a post from Vanessa's account. It was a photo of her and David at some fancy resort in Cabo San Lucas. She was wearing a designer bikini, looking healthy and happy, cocktail in hand, with a caption about much-needed relaxation after a tough couple of years. Blessed Archer cancer survivor, living my best life. I felt this cold sensation in my stomach, like someone had poured ice water into my veins. I went back through her feed. There were photos from expensive restaurants in Dallas, places I knew cost $200 a plate minimum, shopping trips to Neiman Marcus, a new BMW in their driveway, with a caption about finally treating myself, pictures from a weekend in Napa Valley, wine glasses raised, big smiles, all within the past year, all while I was supposedly paying her medical bills. My hands started shaking. I scrolled back further. There it was, a post from 14 months ago. Cancer-free. Thank you all for your prayers and support. Time to start living again. Remission. Survivor. Grateful. The post had hundreds of likes and congratulatory comments. 14 months. I'd sent David $42,000 since Vanessa went into remission, and nobody thought to tell me. I called David immediately. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Hey, saw Vanessa's looking great on Instagram. When were you going to tell me she's been in remission? There was a long pause. Too long. Oh yeah, man, she's doing really well. Been meaning to call you about that. When did she go into remission, David? My voice was steady, but my jaw was clenched so tight it hurt. Another pause. I could hear him breathing. About 14 months ago? The doctors are really happy with her progress. 14 months. So, the medical bills are finished then? Well, not exactly. She's still got follow-up appointments. And, preventive care and... David. My voice was sharp now. What exactly am I paying for? Listen, Marcus, it's complicated. Yes, the cancer treatment is done, but Vanessa's been through hell. She needed therapy, both physical and mental. She needs special supplements. There are still costs. How much? What? How much are these actual ongoing medical costs? I don't have the exact figures in front of me. Ballpark it, David. I could hear him swallow. Maybe $500 a month? But Marcus, you don't understand the emotional toll this has taken. Vanessa needed to feel normal again. The trips, the clothes, the car. These things help her recovery. It's part of her healing process. Her therapist recommended. I hung up on him. I sat there in my apartment, staring at my bank account, doing the math in my head. I'd given them over $70,000 total. For the past 14 months, I'd basically been funding their lifestyle while they let me believe I was helping pay for cancer treatment. While they looked at me like I was some kind of charity case they had to tolerate at family gatherings. The phone rang. David calling back. I declined. It rang again. Declined. A text came through. Don't be mad, bro. We can explain. I turned off my phone and sat in the silence of my apartment. I wasn't even angry yet. I was just numb, hollow, like someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out everything that made me care about them. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I needed time to process this betrayal. A week went by. Then two. David sent dozens of texts. Don't be mad, bro. We can talk about this like adults. You're overreacting. It's not what you think. But I ignored them all. Every message just made it worse. Not once did he say, I'm sorry. Not once did he acknowledge that what they'd done was wrong. 3 weeks after that phone call, my parents called to invite me to Sunday dinner at David and Vanessa's house. They were hosting, and Mom really wanted the whole family together. It had been a while since we'd all been in the same room, and she missed seeing her boys together. I almost said no. Part of me wanted to cut them all off, never see any of them again. But something made me accept. Maybe I wanted to see them in person. Maybe I wanted to understand how they could do this to me. Maybe I just wanted to look David in the eye and see if there was any shame there at all. I drove to Dallas that Sunday, my stomach churning the whole way. When I pulled up to their house, not the modest 3-bedroom they'd had before, but a sprawling 2-story in an upscale neighborhood with perfectly manicured lawns. I felt that cold sensation in my gut again. The BMW in the driveway was joined by a brand new Tesla Model X. The house had to be worth $800,000 at least, and I'd helped pay for it. Vanessa answered the door in designer athleisure, head-to-toe Lululemon that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, diamond earrings catching the light. Marcus! So good to see you! She hugged me like nothing was wrong, like we were the best of friends. Come in, come in! David's in the kitchen with your mom. The house was immaculate. Hardwood floors that gleamed, granite countertops in the kitchen that looked like they cost more than my car, stainless steel appliances that were probably top of the line, art on the walls that looked like it came from actual galleries, not home goods, a crystal chandelier in the entryway. I followed Vanessa to the kitchen, taking in every expensive detail, calculating the cost in my head. Marcus. David came over and hugged me, also acting like everything was normal, like he hadn't been lying to me for over a year. Glad you could make it, bro. Want a beer? I've got this great IPA from a local brewery. $18 a six-pack, but totally worth it. I took the beer, not because I wanted it, but because I needed something to do with my hands. Something to keep me from grabbing David by his expensive polo shirt and demanding answers right there in front of everyone. Mom was there, helping with appetizers. Dad was in the living room watching football on what had to be an 80-inch TV. We made small talk for a while. Mom asking about my work, Dad giving his opinions on the Cowboys' chances this season. Vanessa talked about the charity work she'd been doing, her book club, her Pilates classes. She mentioned her cancer journey in passing, with this practiced humility that made my skin crawl. Then we sat down for dinner. The dining room table looked like it came from a furniture store I couldn't afford to walk into. The place settings were actual china, not the everyday stuff. There was wine, expensive wine that David made a show of decanting. Vanessa had made, well, probably bought and reheated, some elaborate Italian meal that she described in detail, dropping the names of specialty shops where she got the ingredients. As we ate, David launched into a story about their financial advisor. He was animated, gesturing with his wine glass, completely at ease. So, our guy is telling us we need to diversify our portfolio, David said, refilling his wine glass with what I knew was an expensive Cabernet. He's suggesting we put more into index funds, but I'm thinking real estate might be the move. Maybe buy a rental property or two. What do you think, Marcus? You're the numbers guy. I put down my fork carefully. Every muscle in my body was tense. I think I'm not the best person to ask about investment strategies. Come on, you must have opinions. You're doing well for yourself. That tech money's good, right? I didn't answer. I just stared at my plate, trying to keep my composure. That's when it happened. That's when David said the words that made everything crystallize. He laughed, this condescending little chuckle, and said, Actually, never mind. You're probably too poor to understand our problems. We're dealing with serious wealth management here, not just balancing a checkbook. No offense, bro. The table went silent. The only sound was the gentle clink of silverware on china. Mom looked uncomfortable, shifting in her seat. Dad kept his eyes on his plate, suddenly very interested in his pasta. Vanessa smiled, this tiny, smug smile that said she agreed with every word, that I was beneath them, that I always had been. I carefully set down my napkin. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to use the restroom. I walked to their powder room, another display of wealth with marble countertops and designer fixtures, locked the door and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking now, but my mind was perfectly clear. This was it. This was the moment. I opened my banking app and navigated to the automatic payments I'd set up 2 years ago. There were 7 of them, all going to different medical providers and services. Or at least that's what they were supposed to be for. Oncology Associates of Dallas, Alternative Healing Center, Premium Nutrition Services, Dr. Sarah Chen, Psychologist, Advanced Imaging Center, Integrative Medicine Specialists, and one direct payment to David's account for miscellaneous medical expenses. One by one, I canceled each payment. Click, 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 7 times. $70,000 of support ended with a few taps on a screen. Each cancellation felt like cutting a rope that had been strangling me. Then, I went to my bill pay service and deleted the monthly payment I'd set up to go directly to David's account. The one he'd said was for things that come up related to Vanessa's care. Another $500 a month gone. The whole thing took maybe 3 minutes. 2 years of sacrifice, of believing I was doing the right thing, of being a good brother, erased in less time than it takes to make a cup of coffee. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, not even sadness. Just a cold, clear sense of finality. Like closing a door on a room I'd never need to enter again. I flushed the toilet for effect, washed my hands, and walked back to the dining room. I sat down, picked up my fork, and took a bite of pasta. It tasted like ash in my mouth, but I chewed slowly, deliberately. "Everything okay?" Mom asked, her voice uncertain. "Everything's fine," I said. "Just needed a moment." I finished dinner, making polite conversation when necessary, staying quiet otherwise, nodding when expected, smiling when appropriate, playing the role of the dutiful younger brother one last time. When dessert came, some elaborate tiramisu that Vanessa claimed to have made from scratch, I ate it without tasting it. When David told a story about his latest sales win, I didn't react. I was already gone, even though I was still sitting at the table. When it was time to leave, I hugged my parents, nodded at David and Vanessa, and drove home. The whole way back to Austin, I didn't feel anything. Not relief, not anger, not satisfaction. Just a strange emptiness, like I'd left part of myself in that expensive house in Dallas. The next 2 weeks were quiet. I went to work, went to the gym, lived my life. I didn't hear from David at all. I wondered if he even noticed. Maybe he thought the payment system had just glitched. Maybe he was too busy managing his portfolio to check his bank account. Then, exactly 15 days after that dinner, my phone rang at 9 p.m. It was David. "Marcus, what the fuck?" "Hello to you too, David. Don't play dumb." The payments all bounced. Every single one. Do you know how embarrassing this is? Vanessa's mortified. The imaging center called and said our account was overdue. Her nutritionist cut her off. The therapy bills are piling up. I canceled them. You can't just do that. We have agreements with these providers. We have a payment plan. Actually, I can. And I did. The agreements were with me, not you. And I've ended them. Marcus, be reasonable. We need this money. We have expenses. I know. You have wealth management problems. Too complex for someone as poor as me to understand. I could hear him breathing hard on the other end of the line, sputtering, searching for words. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it, David? Look, I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have said that. I was just joking around. You know how I am. But we need this money. Our mortgage? Your mortgage is not my problem. Our car payments? Also not my problem. Vanessa's lifestyle. She needs these things for her mental health. The cancer was traumatic. Especially not my problem. Marcus, please. You don't understand. We'll lose everything. The house, the cars. Our credit will be ruined. Vanessa will be devastated. She's fragile. The stress could make her sick again. Should have thought about that before you spent 2 years lying to me about medical bills while taking luxury vacations on my dime. It wasn't a lie. The money went to health-related expenses. It's just, stop. Just stop, David. I don't care anymore. I don't care about your justifications or your explanations. The money's done. This conversation is done. We're done. You can't do this to family. That's what made me laugh. Actually laugh out loud, a harsh sound that surprised even me. Family? You want to talk to me about family? I gave you $70,000, David. $70,000. I believed I was helping you save your wife's life, and you let me keep paying while you bought BMWs and went to Cabo and looked down on me for being too poor to understand your problems. You turned my love into a punchline at your dinner party. Vanessa was sick. Vanessa's been in remission for over a year. She needed a new car, designer clothes, trips to wine country, a house you can't afford. While I paid for it all, you sat there and called me poor? Silence. Finally. This isn't about the money anymore, David. It's about respect. You had none for me. You looked at me like I was a bank account with a pulse. Well, this bank is closed. Permanently. I hung up. He called back immediately. I declined. He called again. Declined. Again. Declined. Then the text started flooding in. Marcus, please. We can work this out. I'm sorry. Vanessa is crying. You're ruining our lives. Mom and Dad will be so disappointed in you. That last one almost made me laugh again. I didn't respond to any of them. I just turned off my phone and went to bed. I slept better that night than I had in 2 years. The next day, Mom called. Marcus, David says you cut him off financially. What's going on? Did he tell you that Vanessa's been in remission for 14 months while I kept paying what I thought were medical bills? Silence. Did he tell you he bought a new house? 2 new cars? That they've been on vacation 3 times this year? All on my money? More silence. Did he tell you they called me too poor to understand their problems while I was literally funding their lifestyle? Well, he mentioned they were doing better, but I thought, Marcus, we all thought, you thought what, Mom? That I was just happy to be their ATM? That I didn't deserve to know the truth? I can't believe you won't help your own brother in his time of need. His time of need was 2 years ago. I helped then. I helped until they decided to spit in my face. This isn't need, Mom. This is greed. This is them thinking I'm too stupid and too poor to notice they were using me. She hung up on me. The dial tone was loud in my ear. Dad called an hour later. Son, I think you need to reconsider. No, Dad, I don't. Family helps family. I did help. For 2 years. With $70,000. They betrayed that help. They laughed at that help. They're struggling now. They're struggling because they lived beyond their means, assuming I'd keep funding it forever. Because they thought I was too poor and too dumb to figure it out. That's not my responsibility. Marcus, Dad, I love you, but I'm done discussing this. David made his choices. He can live with the consequences. And so can you, if you keep pushing this. Over the next week, the calls and texts continued. David, Vanessa, Mom, Dad. Even Vanessa's parents called me, which was rich, considering they were supposedly too broke to help their own daughter, but apparently not too broke to harass me. I blocked David and Vanessa after the 5th time Vanessa called crying about how I was destroying her recovery. I stopped answering calls from my parents after Mom left a voicemail calling me selfish and heartless. Then the voicemail started. Vanessa crying about how they were going to lose the house, how the stress was affecting her health, how I was giving her cancer again. David saying I was destroying his marriage, his life, his future. Mom saying I was tearing the family apart. Dad saying I was being selfish and cruel, that he didn't raise me to be this kind of person. Not once did anyone apologize for the lie. Not once did anyone acknowledge that what they'd done was wrong. It was all about how I was the bad guy for stopping the flow of money, for standing up for myself, for refusing to be used anymore. A month after I canceled the payments, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Marcus, it's David. I thought I blocked you. This is my work phone. Please don't hang up. Just listen for 1 minute. I didn't say anything, but I didn't hang up either. I waited. We're losing the house. The bank started foreclosure proceedings. We can't make the mortgage payments without what you were sending. Vanessa's parents cut us off because we can't pay them back the money we borrowed. My credit cards are maxed out. The Tesla got repossessed last week. Vanessa left me. She's staying with her sister, filed for divorce. She said she can't be with someone who can't provide for her. Everything's falling apart, and I know it's my fault, but what, David? But I should fix it? Again? No, I know you won't. I know I destroyed that. I wanted you to know that you were right. About all of it. We took advantage of you. We lied to you. We disrespected you. We used you. And I'm sorry. I'm truly, genuinely sorry. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, waiting to feel something. Satisfaction, vindication, even pity. But there was nothing. Just a hollow kind of emptiness where my love for my brother used to be. Okay, I said finally. Okay? I accept your apology, David. I hope you figure things out. That's it? You accept my apology and that's it? What do you want from me? I don't know. Something. Anything. You're my brother. Don't I mean anything to you? I was your ATM. There's a difference. Marcus, please. David, I forgive you. I genuinely do. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to how things were. It means I'm letting go of the anger so it doesn't poison me. It doesn't mean I'm going to start paying your bills again. It doesn't mean I trust you. It doesn't mean we're family again. I'm not asking for money. I just, I just don't want to lose you. You're all I have left. You lost me when you looked me in the eye and called me too poor to understand your problems while I was literally funding your lifestyle. You lost me when you turned my sacrifice into a joke. You lost me when you chose your pride over honesty. I know, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Good. Maybe it'll teach you something. Maybe it'll make you a better person. But that's your journey now, not mine. I hung up. That was 3 months ago. I haven't spoken to David since. Vanessa's divorce went through quickly. Turns out when there's no money left to fight over, these things move fast. David had to declare bankruptcy. Lost the house, the BMW, everything. He's living in a one-bedroom apartment now, working 2 jobs to make ends meet. From what I hear through the family grapevine, he's actually learned what it means to struggle. My parents barely speak to me. Last I heard, they were helping David with rent, which is funny considering they never offered to help him with the medical bills when I was paying them. But I guess a son living in poverty is more embarrassing to them than a son battling cancer bills. Or maybe they finally realized that appearances matter more to them than honesty. I don't feel good about any of this. I don't feel victorious or satisfied. Mostly, I just feel tired. Tired of being seen as a resource instead of a person. Tired of my worth to my family being measured in dollar signs. Tired of wondering if anyone ever loved me for me, or just for what I could provide. I've spent the last few months in therapy, working through a lot of complicated feelings about family, obligation, and self-worth. My therapist asked me once if I regretted helping David in the first place. No, I told her. I don't regret helping when I thought it was for cancer treatment. I regret that my brother saw my generosity as weakness. I regret that my family saw my kindness as something they were entitled to. But I don't regret trying to help. That's who I am. I just need to be more careful about who I give that help to. Do you think you'll ever reconcile with them? I thought about that for a long time. Maybe, I said finally, but it would require them to fundamentally change how they see me. To see me as a person with feelings, not just a wallet with legs. And I don't think that's going to happen. They'd have to admit they were wrong, truly wrong, and people like that. They don't change. She nodded. And how do you feel about that? Sad, but also free. And that's the truth of it. I'm sad that my family couldn't see me as anything more than a wallet. I'm sad that my brother's love was conditional on my financial support. I'm sad that my parents chose his side without ever asking for my side of the story. I'm sad that I wasted $70,000 and 2 years of emotional energy on people who saw me as nothing more than a convenient source of funding. But I'm also free. Free from the weight of their expectations. Free from the constant drain on my finances and my energy. Free from wondering if I'm doing enough, giving enough, being enough. Free to build a life that's mine. Not one where I'm constantly sacrificing for people who don't appreciate it. Last week, I got a friend request on Facebook from David's ex-wife, Vanessa. She sent a message with it. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. I should have spoken up. I was wrong. I didn't accept the request. I didn't respond to the message. Some apologies come too late, and some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. Besides, if she really thought I deserved better, she could have said something 2 years ago when they first started lying to me. I've started dating someone new. Sarah works as a teacher, making a fraction of what I make, but she insists on splitting every check. When I tried to pay for a nice dinner for her birthday, she made me promise to let her take me out for mine. She doesn't know how much I make. She's never asked. She likes me for me, not for what I can provide. My savings account is growing again. That $3,000 a month adds up fast when it's actually staying in my account. I've started planning a trip to Japan, something I've always wanted to do but never could afford while funding David's lifestyle. I'm learning to play guitar, something I'd always put off because I was too busy, too stressed, too focused on everyone else's problems. Is it selfish to put myself first? Maybe. But after 2 years of putting someone else first, only to be called too poor to understand their problems, maybe a little selfishness is exactly what I need. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gone to that dinner. If I'd never heard those words, would I still be paying? Would I have kept funding their lifestyle indefinitely, getting nothing but contempt in return? Probably. And that's the scariest part of all of this. Not what happened, but what could have kept happening if David hadn't gotten cocky, if he'd kept the illusion going, if he'd stayed humble and grateful. I could have wasted years more, hundreds of thousands more, all while being looked down on by the very people I was supporting. So no, I don't regret canceling those payments in that bathroom. I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret setting boundaries that should have been there from the beginning. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my family made it necessary. But the act itself, That was the first time in a long time that I truly put myself first. And you know what? It felt good. It felt right. I'm too poor to understand their problems? Fine. Then I'm also too poor to solve them. And I'm perfectly okay with that. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.